Hello and welcome to our video on the order of operations, sometimes known as BIDMAS or BODMAS. And this is the next video in our Functional Skills Maths Level 1 and 2 course. The learning outcome for this video is to follow the order of precedence of operations. So let's look at some linked learning that have brought us to this point. In previous videos, we had our functions of add, subtract, multiply and divide, which hopefully you've practiced and are now good at doing manually. So if we look at what we did previously, we would do a simple problem like 6 plus 2 equals 8. And another simple problem would be 2 times 3, which is 6. And these contain single functions, either just add or just multiply. Now, the whole point of the order of operations is, what do we do when we have more than one function with our numbers? So here I've got 6 plus 2 times 3. And we need some kind of order so that we get the correct answer. Now, your calculators are already programmed with BIDMAS, but we need to understand manually how this works. Now, there's a mnemonic that you can learn to learn the order of operations, and that is BIDMAS, or sometimes known as BODMAS. So the B in BIDMAS stands for brackets. So if you've got anything inside brackets, then this must be done first. So the most powerful thing you can have in maths is brackets. It forces something to be the top priority when doing a calculation. The next is an index. And the index is a power. So we've already talked about square numbers. So 6 squared. Well, doing the index first is the next highest priority. So if you had 6 squared plus 4, you'd have to do the 6 squared first before you added the 4. And we'll look at each of these priorities individually in a minute. Then division and multiplication are the next level down, but they are at the same level. So if you have just multiplication and division left in a calculation, you read it from left to right. So if we had 6 times 4 divided by 2, then our rule says these are at the same level, division and multiplication, and that's all we've got left. Therefore, we would do the multiplication first. We do the 24 first and then divide it by 2 to get our 12. And this rule of being at the same level, so our lowest priority is addition and subtraction. So if we do a problem, for example, 6 minus 3 plus 11, then addition and subtraction being at the same level means we do the subtraction first. So it would become 6 minus 3, which is 3, plus 11, which is 14. So going over the rule again, your first priority is brackets. The next priority in maths is indices. Then it's division and multiplication, but doing them from left to right, whichever one you come across first. And then finally, from left to right, addition and subtraction are the lowest priority. But again, if that's all you've got left, you do them from left to right. Let's have a look at brackets. Now, we haven't come across brackets before, so let's explain a bit about the bracket. If we had the problem 6 times 4 plus 2, then BIDMAS tells us we need to do the multiplication first, because it's a higher priority than addition. So we would end up with 24, then we'd add the 2, which would give us 26. However, we can change the priority of the addition by putting brackets around it. So it becomes 6 times brackets 4 plus 2. So now BIDMAS tells us to do what's inside the brackets first before we do the multiplication. So 4 plus 2 is 6, and 6 times 6 is 36, a totally different answer. Now, in mathematics, you don't come across problems written like this very often because 6 times and then the brackets can be written in shorthand to 6 next to the brackets. So whenever you see a number or a letter when we come on to algebra, next to a bracket, the thing that's missing in there is a multiply sign. So just be aware of that when we come on to the next session and we start talking about formulas and brackets. A number or a letter next to a bracket has a multiply missing between the two. Okay, let's get some practice doing some BIDMAS problems. Have a go first if you like to see if you can come up with the correct answers. So, for the first one, because we've got addition and subtraction left, then the first thing we do is the subtraction because we're going from left to right. Addition and subtraction are at the same level in our priorities. So 6 minus 2 is 4, plus the 3 gives you 7. Now if you thought addition came first, you would have 2 plus 3, which is 5. So 6 minus 5 would give you 1, and that would be wrong. So BIDMAS tells us to do the subtraction before the addition because we're reading it from left to right, and we would end up with the correct answer of 7. Let's have a look at the next level of difficulty of question then. So here we've got a multiplication and a subtraction, and BIDMAS tells us multiplication comes before subtraction. So 3 times 2 is 6. And then 5 minus the 6 leaves us with minus 1. Remember your negative numbers. If you get stuck, don't forget to jot down your number line. So if you're starting at the number 5 and you're going to subtract 6, so you're going in that direction, you end up at minus 1. The next one then. Here we've got an addition, a division, and we've got brackets. So the top priority in BIDMAS tells us to do what's in the brackets first. So 9 plus 6 is 15. Then do the division, so divide it by 3, and that gives us 5. And finally, here we've got an index, we have a subtraction and an addition. So BIDMAS tells us the index is the highest priority in this problem. So we have 3 squared, which is 9. Remember your square numbers. Then it becomes minus 2 plus 4. So now we're just left with subtraction and addition. So work from left to right. 9 minus 2, which is 7, plus the 4 gives you the correct answer of 11. Now you've probably come across BIDMAS questions on the internet all the time, on Twitter and Facebook and other social media. Quite frequently you'll get these problems thrown up and it says 1% of the country can answer this correctly, or 9 out of 10 people will get this wrong. Okay, so I'd just like to prove that just by applying BIDMAS you can join the top 1% of the country in being able to solve this. So for this problem in the top left, we have 6 divided by 2, brackets 1 plus 2. So BIDMAS tells us to do the bracket first. So we do the 1 plus 2, which is 3. So it becomes 6 divided by 2, and then brackets, which means multiply by 3. There's a missing multiply there between the 2 and the bracket. So now, because we're just left with multiplication and division, we go from left to right. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, times the 3 gives us 9. So the correct answer is 9. Let's have a go at being a genius. So here we have our BIDMAS problem. So BIDMAS tells us to do multiplication first. It's a higher order than subtraction and addition. So it becomes 3 minus 18 plus 2. Now, 3 minus 18 plus 2 are at the same level, the minus and the plus. So we read it from left to right. So 3 minus 18 is minus 15. And then we need to add 2. So minus 15 plus 2 is minus 13. So to be a genius, you need to know the answer is minus 13. Sometimes in mathematics, you'll come across a different way to do division, and this is using what we call the dividing line. So instead of writing 4 divided by 2, you can do the same thing by doing 4 dividing line 2, and it kind of looks like a fraction. So when you see BIDMAS with the dividing line covers the things that have to be done before you do the division. So the question here on the left means we have to add 4 and 8 before we divide it by the 3. So you end up with 12 over 3. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. The question on the right, again, we have a dividing line. So everything above the dividing line needs to be done before we do the division. So 8 plus 6 is 14 over 7 times 2. Now, because we've got the dividing line here, we can do the sum here first. So 14 divided by 7 is 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. So have a go at these two questions and see how you get on. Okay, so the way to do this is do the dividing line first, or what's above the dividing line first. So 7 plus 11 is 18, so it becomes 18 over 9 times 3. So this means divide, so 18 divided by 9 is 2, times 3 equals 6. So you should get 6 for this problem on the left. So the problem on the right, the dividing line goes across the whole thing. So whatever is above it, we need to do first, but because there are two things to do, we still have to follow BIDMAS. So we have 12 here, and we've got to minus, and we do the multiplication first because multiplication comes before subtraction. So 3 times 2 is 6. So we're left with 12 minus 6 over 3. We then do the subtraction because our dividing line encompasses our 12 minus the 6. So we've got 6 divided by 3 is 2. So the answer to the problem on the right is 2. Let's have a look at the power of brackets. Place the brackets to get the correct answers. So here we have a problem without any brackets. And if we did this problem using BIDMAS, we would end up with a different answer to this question. So 20 divided by 5 plus 5 times 2. BIDMAS tells us to do 20 divided by 5 first, which is 4. And 5 times 2, which is 10. So the division and multiplication are at a higher level than the addition. Now we've done the division and the multiplication, we can do the addition. So 4 plus 10 equals 14. So the answer without the brackets is 14. So our question is asking us to place a brackets around something in here to give us the answer 4. Have a go and see if you can come up with where the brackets should live. Did you get it? If we place the brackets around the 5 plus 5, it raises the priority of the addition, so we have to do this first. Brackets is our top priority. So 5 plus 5 is 10. So it becomes 20 divided by 10 times 2. Now we've just got multiplication and division left, and they're at the same level. So we just read it from left to right. 20 divided by 10 is 2, and 2 times 2 gives us 4. So putting the brackets around the 5s gives us the answer 4. Let's do the same thing with the next problem. So we need to place brackets on this problem to give us an answer of 35. Without the brackets, let's have a look at what we get. Well, we have a multiplication, which is a higher priority than addition and subtraction. So 8 times 3 is 24. Then we have plus 2 minus 5. Because we've just got addition and subtraction left, we read it from left to right. So 24 plus 2 is 26. Take away the 5 gives us 21. So without any brackets, this problem would give us a solution of 21. Now try and place the brackets on the problem to give us an answer of 35 and see what you come up with. Did you get it? If you put the brackets around the 3 plus 2, you end up with 5 because the brackets raise the priority of the 3 plus 2. Then we have 8 times 5 minus 5. So the multiplication comes next. So 8 times 5 is 40. Then take away the 5 gives us our 35. So placing the brackets around the 3 and the 2 gave us our correct answer of 35. Let's have a look at some exam questions. Here's a level 1 question. So we need to work out 15 plus 35 divided by 5. And this is worth 2 marks in the exam. And this is worth 2 marks on a non-calculator exam. So we understand BIDMAS and that we have to do the division before the addition. So the first thing we do is the 35 divided by 5, which is 7. So 15 plus 7 equals 22. Now notice I've done some working out. I could have done this in my head to come up with the correct answer, but I would have lost one of my 2 marks. So always show your working out. And here's an exam question for a level 2 exam. But I'm sure my level 1 students could also have a go at doing this. Let's see if you get the correct answer. Again, the question is worth 2 marks, so we need to show our working out as we go along. So we have a subtraction, a multiplication, and an index. So BIDMAS, the I in BIDMAS, tells us to do the 3 squared first, which is 9. So we then end up with 25 minus 2 times 9. BIDMAS tells us to do the 2 times 9 next because multiplication is a higher priority than subtraction. So 2 times 9 is 18, so it becomes 25 minus 18, which is 7. So the answer for 2 marks is 7. 1 mark for the correct answer and 1 mark for some working out. So the learning outcome for this lesson was to follow the order of precedence of operation. In other words, to remember that BIDMAS tells us the order in which to do calculations. B for brackets, I for indices, D is division and multiplication, but they're at the same level, so you do them from left to right, and then finally addition and subtraction from left to right. And that concludes this video. If you'd like more practice on BIDMAS, then please go to the Moodle area where you can find worksheets and homework on these topics.